When I was a kid, probably like second grade or younger, I was obsessed with this alarm clock that my dad had. It looked like the emoji we now have for an alarm clock, except that it was sleek and black, had a round face and case. It was analog, and the hands and numbers were glow in the dark, that even in broad daylight seemed to have an eerie glow. It didn't have batteries. You had to wind it up by hand by turning a silver ring on the back. There was also this curved slide that could moderate how loud the alarm, real bells inside the casing, were. I loved to hear it tick and set off the alarm for a few minutes from whatever time it was and wait impatiently for it to go off. One day I got a hold of this alarm clock. Dad might have upgraded or something because it wasn't being used at the time. I must have had a screwdriver too because I completely disassembled it to look at all the gears and bells and learn how that volume slide worked. I didn't dig too much more into the machinery of the clock. The guts were pretty self-contained, and even I knew I didn't want to pull more of it apart. It didn't really matter though, because I couldn't get the thing back together. I think I hid it under my bed or in a toy box. No one ever came looking for it, so I didn't have to explain how I broke it. I'm Dan Bader, Communication Coordinator for the School District of South Milwaukee. Today we're talking about the district's new STEM program for elementary students. But in a bigger sense, we're talking about engaging curiosity in a hands-on way to look at something and learn how it works and why. Or better yet, to build something and figure out how to make it work. I'm excited to introduce you to our STEM teachers who are on an exploration of their own, building a new program from the ground up, fueled by the natural curiosity of our youngest students. Here's our conversation. Joining us today on the podcast are our three newest STEM teachers. We never had a STEM program in the elementary school, so they're by default new. Welcome to the podcast. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
I am Jennifer Hayner, and I'm working at Lakeview Elementary and E.W. Luther Elementary.
I'm Jolene Wazalewski, and I will be at Blakewood Elementary and E.W. Luther Elementary.
And Katie Castleton at Rawson Elementary.
Katie, why don't you start? Tell me what a STEM program means to you for the little ones. What are we going to be learning?
Everything. STEM in the elementary setting is so exciting, and South Milwaukee is really the first district in this area to be piloting a program like this starting as young as kindergarten. Some of the things I'm excited for them to jump in is starting to learn some block coding and really be approaching that coding as a second language. So just like students are learning Spanish and French, we're going to be teaching them coding as another language. I'm excited for this program, and just what you see this year is not going to be what you see in years to come, because the program is going to continually be changing and evolving as technology and things in the world change.
Jolene, what are your thoughts on that? What's your classroom going to look like, and what are they going to experience?
I'm looking forward to having a very student-driven classroom, so they're going to drive the train kind of on what it is we explore and really dive deep into in STEM this year, things that they're passionate about. I'm really excited to spark the curiosity through all the grade levels. I know as kids get older, they aren't as inventive, or they maybe start to lose that self-confidence and creativity so much that like a kindergartner would have. So I'm really excited to work with the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level and really get to what they're passionate about, because you often find that it's kids who maybe don't stand out in the classroom that could really get a chance to shine when they're in STEM class.
And your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really excited for all of the pieces to come together and this to be a very integrated curriculum. I'm excited for students to be able to see how they can apply ELA and science and math and technology into one problem that is real world, that is hands-on. Being able to work as a team, problem solving together, seeing a project from the beginning brainstorming phase through the planning, creating, and then reflecting. debugging code, like Katie had said, using that language to really kind of go crazy with so many different ways that they can express themselves and work together as a team to kind of create really cool projects and masterpieces. So.
Sure. We've thrown around this acronym STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. But from a thinking out of a parent perspective, so I have a second grader at home. What math that a second grader is learning is going to be useful in a classroom, and do you coordinate with the second grade teachers to talk about what their capacity is, what they've learned so far, so that they could use it to solve a problem in one of your classrooms? Who wants to take that one?
I mean, right away, I think of measurement. I think of patterns and sequencing, and kids needing to, when they're coding and they're wanting a character to move 15 pieces, they can use a ruler to determine that, for example. They're going to be looking at how they can design things that function, as an engineer, and, take into account addition, subtraction, how things are just going to relate sequentially to each other as they create and build. So I think ideally, yes, we definitely want to be working collaboratively with not only classroom teachers, but also possibly specialists at some point, adding in maybe that A into the STEM. And, the more collaboration, the better. We're starting off with science and aligning everything to the Amplify curriculum to begin with, and then we eventually want to tie in everything else. So.
Sure. What in your background, I was thinking about, you were kindergarten teachers last year, right?
First
yeah. Grade, sorry. You were the kindergarten teacher. Okay, sorry. But your knowledge of classroom education must prepare you to be able to pull these students in and to be able to say, I know what a third grader is supposed to know. I know what a kindergartner is supposed to know. That must play a role in being able to do these new jobs in a great way. Can you maybe elaborate on that? Because I just had that thought myself, so I'm still kind of thinking through it. How does that work? How does your knowledge as prior educators in a classroom affect how you're going to do your jobs?
Yeah. Katie here. Something that a lot of people that aren't in education, and sometimes in education, they hear the word like standards and the state standards or Common Core standards. And although they can feel frustrating when you're not sure how to unpack them, for us coming from a general ed classroom into a situation like this, we've worked with our state standards. And so regardless of what curriculum our district is using, we know what the standards are that are going to be taught and worked on proficiency in their classroom. So we, outside of, we're starting Wit and Wisdom for a literacy curriculum this year. Even though we're not masters of that curriculum, we're masters of the grade level standards. So we can look at what we want to achieve in the STEM class and be able to incorporate those grade level standards into what we're doing.
I'm a little jealous, and I'm not even a classroom teacher, that you get to connect the dots a little more than maybe a general ed teacher might have to do, because they have to move to skill building, but you actually get to use those skills and connect them. How do you plan for something like that? Do you guys have like day one, like, hey, remember that you did measurements last year? I'm talking too much. Who would like to answer?
Jolene here. So like any school year in the STEM lab, we'll be starting our year out with lots of growth mindset building, problem solving, and really teaching the kids what STEM class will be all about this year. But then in terms of planning, we do have a plan, but our plan is flexible in that we really want to go where the kids take us. So we're going to follow their lead and what sparks their interest in STEM class, and making sure we're really providing them with the skills they need to become critical thinkers, which is really going to help them across all grade levels in all disciplines.
So on Friday next week, if you guys are successful, what does little Dan Bader come home and say about STEM class? What do you think?
This is Jennifer. So we, first of all, want to use Seesaw as a platform to be able to show parents, to be able to allow little Dan to show his mom and dad, look at the video I just made of my, earthquake project or whatever it is. So we want to definitely use as much technology as we can to allow students to show those things. But we also want them to not only talk about the physical building or car that they made, but also to, be able to explain why they made that car. What is the purpose behind it? What is the objective that they were trying to get out of that lesson? As far as, planning too, we know that each project could take several weeks for a class. We want them to go through all of those parts of the learning process. We want them to plan, to collaborate before they start creating and building, so they have an understanding of the science topic and vocabulary that they can then use along with the coding to create an end project. So to be able to tell their parents, when they have that final creation on week 2 or week 3, this is what led up to my end result, and this is maybe what failed initially and what I had to debug, what I had to tweak to get to this end product. And we also want to tie in some literature to be able to give them a starting off point of, this character struggled with, making a scooter for her dog, attachment. And I was kind of like her. I made multiple tries and failed and had to figure out, which part of this didn't work that I, and my partner had to work together as a team to solve. So there's so much that goes into these great hands-on real-world projects that I think, they'll have a lot to talk about.
I'll even add on to that. I am really excited for students to understand and work through a productive struggle. With technology, there's so much instant gratification for adults and students. And to be really kind of going back and teaching our students, like, struggle and fail is okay as long as where you go from there. And so teaching them that productive struggle, but then also with their peers, getting back into those communication skills and how do you work with somebody and how do you fail with someone, problem solve, and come back at it, because that too, especially still coming out of COVID, and students not being in the classroom or not being, working in groups and stuff, so much just being independent work on Chromebooks, getting them back into groups, problem solving, and doing that in a team setting.
Did you have a thought on that?
Yep, this is Jolene here. I want to add on too that I really want students to come home just like very excited about the possibilities of the things they're going to do in STEM class. And then I think that we'll start to see even more success when we do activities or projects in STEM class and it sparks their curiosity outside of the classroom, so they're going to take it home with them. And I want to, whether we're learning about something with space, I want to learn more about this. Where can we go to the library? Where can we learn more about this topic? And so I think that the goal not only is to have them do these projects like within the STEM class, but kind of to support them in lifelong learning of things that they're passionate about, and then start to even look at a young age like for career paths, things that open new doors for them.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because during the referendum we talked about career exploration, exposing children to job possibilities throughout their educational career, so that when they get to the point where they have to start choosing a little bit of a specialty, they might have something in mind. How do you introduce that to the wide range of ages that you guys are going to be encountering?
Well, so this is Jennifer. We had a guest speaker yesterday talk about how, kids with learning disabilities, children who struggle with, literacy or math, can shine in STEM because it's not just one skill that they're using. And, I immediately think of specific kids I've taught over the years who might not feel very successful in school because of some of those disabilities or challenges that they face. But we're hoping that when they come to us, they, maybe kind of have that tinkering, mechanic mind that, they might not be able to read well, but they can build like amazing houses out of blocks. Or, we're hoping that they'll be able to see future careers and in a different way, and see that there are a lot of opportunities beyond just reading class, writing class, what they're used to.
Sure.
I think it'll really open kids' eyes, especially the ones that might not feel as successful as some of their peers on a daily basis, now come into this new opportunity to shine and to explore, other options.
Yeah,
So.
kind of hitting on that. I know a Blakewood family who's one of the students might be kind of what you're thinking about, that this summer he fashioned his own crossbow out of popsicle sticks on a Saturday using rubber bands and with no help or instruction from parents. It's just something that he wanted to do mechanically. But I know he struggles, to sit still and to do other things.
We might be thinking of the same person.
Oh, right.
Because it might have been my student.
We'll share offline.
But anyway, yes.
But yeah, I mean that. I interviewed so many of our career and technology students who just said, "I knew I wanted to do something with my hands. Yeah, I took calculus this year, and I'm a 4.0 student, but I want to go do this because I know that that's just where my passion is. I want to build things and work on things." Yeah.
Yeah. Katie here to kind of elaborate on that. There's so many, when we look at some of our littles right now, kindergarten, first, second, third grade, the jobs that will exist for them when they are leaving high school or leaving college don't even exist yet. Like, we can't even imagine some of these careers that are going to exist. And so it can feel challenging to, how do we set our students up for success for a job that does not exist yet? And I think what we're doing by introducing STEM and technology and engineering at the youngest age, we are at least giving them that foundation so that when they are getting into high school and beyond, we are laying that foundation where they are going to be prepared to step into any situation, and they're not going to feel behind. In fact, being the first district in the area to be doing this, we are going to give our students an advantage when they are getting into those older grades. They will already have the foundation of engineering and how gears work and inputs and outputs and that foundation of coding.
I guess kind of back to that question I had a minute ago, though. When you introduce students to careers, is it profiles of an engineer? Do you have engineers coming in the classroom? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you're building this from scratch, so.
This is Jolene here. This is a great time to advocate for any local businesses that would love to come in. Please reach out to us because that is one of our goals, especially local businesses in the South Milwaukee area, to come in and kind of talk to students about their careers and what they do that is STEM related. But also we have different varying things within the curriculum we're using this year that will explore various career paths for students that we're going to use with hands-on creations, and then be like, if this is something you're really passionate about and you really enjoyed this product, this project that we did, this is maybe the career path that you would be interested in when you're older, because this is something that if you were an architect, this is the kind of thing you would be working on day to day, those type of things.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just wanted to add too, not only community members, but family members, that have specific jobs, because wow, what a great way for a child to feel empowered and excited about this if they know, I have a family member, I have a cousin, I have a neighbor that, does some of this work, and I can relate to that because the more background knowledge we spark in a child, the more connections we can make to what their world is outside of the school, the more excited they'll be about.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you for making reference to my specific part of the strategic plan, community engagement. I am looking to get members of the community into our schools and our schools out into the community. What a great opportunity to do that. I also have a follow-up question. You are starting from scratch. What guidance did you find out in the world to start building your programs? Or are you inventing as you go?
It's a combination of both. I will say that we have some really amazing people in our district that have already, given us some guidance and tools and ideas to help us get started. But I think as we go throughout this year, being able to have the flexibility to build and imagine what it will look like for years to come. So students will not be repeating activities, and even activities that we're doing this year, probably some of them won't be repeated next year as we continue to just build up what the program wants to look like. And like Jolene has said a few times, really let this be student driven. So looking at different themes or ideas that students are interested in, and seeing how we can align some projects that would match those grade level standards.
We have also attended trainings, though, for the different curriculum we'll be using. And we attended a STEAM conference in Oshkosh, and we'll be in February attending another one. So, and possibly talking at it or teaching at it. So, in addition, we've been talking with other elementary STEM teachers nationwide. I know someone in Portland, for example, that we got on Zoom with and picked her brain for an hour as to, what could we improve starting off, which definitely helped us think through our planning of this first trimester. So
Okay.
This is Jolene here. I think one of the things we're most grateful for with the referendum funds is that we are able to be really intentional and thoughtful about what we're doing with the students, and we're not required to use all the money by a specific date, like a startup date at the beginning of the year. So we're not pressured to go out and order specific 3D printers or materials that maybe we're not going to use. And so we're kind of using those funds to purchase things as we go along that we know are going to be the best tools for our students to use.
Okay. For your colleagues who might be listening, we've moved to this this professional learning community model. How do you fit into that? In my mind, I see you as ties that bind between the same way that your discipline does, but how is that functionally going to work? What do you do when you're sitting in those meetings with classroom teachers?
this is Jennifer. So first of all, we have to find common meeting times, and I think for now that'll probably be our half days on Wednesdays when we're able to meet with as many teachers as possible or as many grade level teams. And yeah, ideally, we want to be as collaborative as possible with teachers and making sure that we are only supporting what they're already doing in the classroom, which is why we, are participating in the Act 20 modules and making sure not only with math and science, but with all of the content that they're teaching, it's all going to be a part of STEM, whether it's in the acronym or not. They're going to be using creative art skills. They're going to be using, writing with reflections and reading with directions of the coding. And, it's all going to tie in, which is what makes this so exciting.
This is Jolene here. I think we're also, the three of us professionals have a lot of experience being a part of a professional learning community. So we're not new going into that, and we are stepping all new out of the classroom into the specialist position. So we're very in the know of what it's like to be in the classroom, general classroom teacher's shoes, and making sure that we're really supporting them if there are things that they do with their students as they work through the new reading curriculum. If there are particular things that they found their students more passionate about or they would need more support with, and that's kind of where we come in, where we would do STEM projects around those particular themes that they're working through.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess parents need to know, maybe we should have said this at the beginning, that in hallway speak, I guess you guys are a special, right? So when your student comes home, they'll talk about, oh, we had specials. This week we had library, or we had physical education. You guys, STEM is a special. And going back to that referendum, we were talking about supporting our teachers, our classroom teachers. We identified that teachers at the elementary level needed more time during the day to grade, to get ready for a lesson, get whatever. So this is it. We're giving them prep time while you get to have their students for a period of time so that they get a break to go to the bathroom and to do the work they need to do when students aren't around. So how does that change the dynamic of your classrooms, that you're a special now, right? You are something that's a break for them from the rest of their day. That's different, right?
Katie here, love the idea now as a specialist that I get to connect with the entire student body. And that STEM gets to be that thing that connects me with the entire building. And coming out of the classroom, knowing that this is offering support for those teachers, elementary teachers, the planning across all content, meeting with teams, it's a lot. And I don't know that everyone realizes how much goes into specifically elementary planning when you are planning for all content areas. So knowing that we get to offer that support to them, and whether it be pre-teaching or reteaching concepts, and then also just being able to give them that extra time so that they can get done the things that they need to do.
We're also hoping, this is Jennifer, that they'll be able to make a lot more connections both in both classrooms to the concepts we're teaching. So for example, if we're teaching a unit on magnets, and they had just learned that maybe in a different way with their regular ed class, they'll come into us then and say, oh my gosh, this connects to what we just did with so-and-so. They'll be able to make so many more ways of understanding in their brain this concept versus just one and done kind of thing with their science unit. And then on the reverse side, if we're the ones kind of starting teaching a specific concept, and then the teacher reinforces that later on in her science unit or math, they'll again make those connections. So we're hoping the background knowledge will just multiply in their brain and really solidify all of the concepts that they'll be using on a day-to-day basis, and they'll see how measurement you can use so many ways, not just measuring the fish in first grade and then they're done. They'll be able to apply everything.
And that skill set, right, the practical skill set and having it stick is something that last year when I did the story about STEM, maybe it was 2 years ago, that the middle school STEM teacher found herself reteaching measuring, right, so that she could accomplish what she needed, and also found that collaboration you had mentioned. She was working on that because the high school was telling her that students couldn't work together, that they didn't have that skill when they got to the technology classes. So I guess the question I have is, how do you connect the dots from what you guys are doing to what's going to happen in elementary STEM or middle school STEM, and then when they start exploring the technology offerings that we have?
Just being really intentional with everything we do. Figuring out where needs are in the classroom. So, we've even talked about looking at our state assessment. Are there standards that the classroom teachers are struggling to hit in math that we can at least expose students to. But with our group work and problem solving and all of that, just being so intentional about how we are approaching things and making sure that our students are getting what they need by us ourselves communicating with each other.
This is Jolene. I'll add on to what Katie said and what you said about what the high school mentioned about kids struggling to work together or collaborate. So being really intentional, starting with that mindset in kindergarten of this is what collaboration looks like. It's okay to try and make mistakes. It's a safe zone for all of us, that we keep working to solve a problem and become really critical thinkers so that by the time they move on to even like middle school, they will already have those skill sets to be able to kind of take on anything in any class that they go to, not just STEM class, and kind of take it in stride and have that mindset of like, this is difficult, but I'm going to work through it, and I can figure it out and I can collaborate for support.
Yeah, one of the things is learning to disagree and still keep moving forward on a project, right? I mean, I know that was a struggle at the middle school, and actually working that through all of our when we talk about social emotional learning, what we're talking about is productive work skills that you're going to use in your classroom or in your life when you leave. That, hey, I lost this one. My argument didn't follow through, but I'm not mad at my boss because I'll get a chance the next time. So I just hope our listeners grasp that that's what we're talking about when we're talking about whether it's the class in the middle school where we learn all the different ways to cope with our feelings, and digest them so that we can move on and not struggle with our friends. But then also a very practical STEM application is someone's going to be the leader in the team. Someone's going to make a decision that maybe I don't like, but I still have to contribute to that team and collaborate. What's that look like for a kindergartner, a third grader, and a fifth grader?
Yeah, no, this is Jennifer. It's really exciting to me. I was just talking to my daughter about this last night, thinking about seeing in 5 years the kindergartners starting this year with us and where they'll be. We're hoping they will be collaboration rock stars. They're going to be so willing to take on projects without blinking an eye. I think they'll be able to create and not even think that they can't with that fixed mindset going in. They'll just know they can. And, thinking about my own children being in robotics for years and how they've grown and me watching them, over time take on different roles within that team and initially be nervous about it. I'm nervous about starting as a STEM teacher and having done this role before. But again, that's how we teach our students, by example. This might be tricky. I might say to my fifth graders, let's work together on solving this, and being just honest, from the get-go. We are all a team. We are all working together. And, I think this is very empowering to students, and that will really be evident as they advance throughout this program over the years. And we're hoping they'll go to middle school just ready without, blinking an eye that this is going to be a challenge. It'll just be new challenges I'll always be tackling because I'll be so used to it.
Yeah, I was thinking that they are going to be able to do more in middle school and more in high school because you guys are going to be multipliers. You're going to rocket those basic skills through there so they don't have to stop and go back. They can just keep going forward. Because we're talking about our youngest in our society, what role does play have in a STEM classroom?
This is Jolene here. So in the lower elementary level, play is a huge part of the STEM, especially when kids are creating things, designing things through play, coming up with problems on their own. One example would be last year in the kindergarten class I was teaching. The kids would work during the day and it would be kind of messy on the floor, and they decided to invent and create their own vacuum cleaners during playtime. So they had many different prototypes that they walked through, and it was very student driven. It was open ended. They were able to use all the STEM type toys within the classroom. So we have purchased some of that stuff for the STEM labs, and we'll purchase more as we see what students really are interested in using. And we'll create STEM challenges for them. And as they come to us with problems that they see either in their classroom or world, then we'll work together with them through play to kind of spark that interest in creating things and making prototypes and trying that out so that they continue with that.
Katie, what is play? Like, if we had to define play in a school, or actually in life, what does play mean?
Play is the ability to be imaginative and creative without huge constraints or restriction. I also think kind of with my own little kids at home, and for them, like, kind of forcing them to, like, be bored a little, like turning the screens off, and through their kind of, I'm bored, seeing what comes out of that, and supplying them with different materials, but really kind of laying off of the constraints that they have and seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 2-year-old, and I watch her explore the world that way, right? And treat her baby 1 second as a real baby and trying to feed it, and the next it's on the floor and she's moved on to something else. That exploration is fun to watch, and I'm a little jealous you guys get to see that en masse, and then actually try to apply it towards a goal. That's going to be awesome to see.
So we're going to be the ones giving them the box the baby came in, though, not the baby. They're going to have to get creative with random objects. I think of my daughter, too, who's now 18, but she is that kid that can make something from nothing, and that's all she's done her whole life. She never asked me, Mom, buy me all the stuff at Michael's. She would say, can I have that shirt you're going to give to Goodwill? I'm going to tear that apart and make it into a scarf. Or, that's kind of, I think, what STEM Lab is, but with a purpose, with an objective. And I think, again, it's very empowering for kids to be able to look outside of the box, see things that they can do with everyday objects to solve problems, to make the world a better place, to improve life. So, in some way.
Here with us now to give us a little more global view about what the STEM program means for our schools and the community support of it in the referendum is Superintendent Deidre Raymer. Welcome.
Thanks, Dan. I am beyond excited at what we're able to offer to our kids in this next year. We had a plan around our referendum, and at the same time, we were busy building our 5-year strategic plan for all of our students and our families and our community to know what are we working on in the school district of South Milwaukee with our students. So that plan was approved by our board in March, and the referendum was passed in April. So when you tie together our big global goals on our kids having the skills that employers are looking for, whether they choose to go to college or not, their communication and collaboration and problem solving and personal responsibility and showing up on time and doing the things that they're asked to do. And so those are skills we want to embed through science, math, reading, English, everything else we teach in schools, as well as those content area standards that we need students to get at. And so part of that work is also making sure that students understand from really young ages, what do they want to be when they grow up? And we ask little kids that all the time, but then we don't tie some of that to what we're actually doing in schools. So STEM is one way to do that. And then over the next couple of years, we're hoping to add in additional ways to do that just to give elementary students that exposure. If you really like to code and do these blockchains and all these other things that you're learning to explore on that are totally aligned to the science standards in that elementary STEM program, if you really enjoy that, these are some jobs that are out there that you might want to explore. And then it'll help students choose courses at our middle school, choose courses at our high school, so that they leave us knowing what they want to do, and lots of times leave us at least ruling out a bunch of things they learned they don't like to do. because maybe they won't like some of those things. And then I'm not going to pursue some of those other opportunities through middle and high school as I get older. So that really was the big idea. And we always want to look out for our teachers as well. And we knew we needed to find a way to get elementary teachers some more prep time. So to do that in a way that actually provides a cool opportunity for students and has this other benefit to it, it seemed like a win-win.
Thank you. I was going to ask about that. When we talked about the referendum last year and had that conversation, we talked about safe, supported, and successful. And this kind of falls in a couple of those buckets. Can you maybe just draw that out? How did that happen?
Sure. Yeah. Safe, as we know, is about like safety measures, but that includes the psychological safety too, mental health supports and things like that we offer in our schools. We've been doing some of that work for many years here, and so we'll continue that work and continue to expand on it as we can. And then there was physical safety things like traffic studies and cameras and door locks and things like that, working on all of that at the same time. That supported and successful piece was really that exposure to as many opportunities as possible in their time in high school. We have so many students who get an industry certification before they graduate from our high school or already have under their belt 5, 10, 18 college credits before they leave us. But not all of our students even know to access all of those programs, and not all of our families do. So this is a way that we can be more strategic and aligned and communicate with our families around all those opportunities so that, again, we can have our kids taking advantage of all the things we do here in the school district of South Milwaukee that we do well. But it's also about supported, which means we want to recruit and retain the highest quality teachers. So we were able to make some adjustments to our salary schedule to have us be more competitive in the area with some of those referendum dollars. And the STEM programming also added some prep time, some additional preparation time for our elementary teachers who don't have a ton at the present moment. They don't get nearly as much as middle school and high school. And they teach all the subjects at elementary. So part of that being supportive is having salaries that are competitive in our area and work conditions that also are at or above what other districts are offering.
In that vein, people might wonder why not put it in the classroom. I think you just answered that.
Yeah.
But from a big education standpoint, making STEM a special, what does that help our kids to be successful? What does that add, and not just integrating this in the classroom or having a push in where they're not where the teacher is sitting in the back of the room, having these rooms and having these specialists, what does that get us?
It gets us a whole lot of things. One of the things it got us was 3 classroom teachers who are super passionate about getting to teach this subject to every single grade level. And when you do a push-in model and you have one teacher in a building, you're not going to ever get to all of the students. And so part of it was that, right? And part of it is that we have been working on a lot of technology integration with our technology team. We have a coach around that works with our elementaries and our middle schools who's amazing and fantastic and has tons of skills in that area. But that person can't get to every single teacher in each one of our spaces. So the idea of adding it as a special allows us to make sure every single student gets that same exposure to those concepts of science, technology, engineering, and math. They're learning problem solving. They're learning how to communicate. They're learning how to collaborate and get along with others and work in a group. They're also learning coding and engineering principles and all of those pieces of that work that's also exploratory for jobs and futures and things that kids might be passionate about as well. So it really does just let us touch on every single student that we get to get our hands on in the course of the week.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks for laying that out. I'm really excited to see what happens this year with those teachers, and I know I've encouraged them to send me stuff that we can put out on our social media and on our referendum tracker, so thanks again. That's our episode for this week. A heartfelt thank you to Katie Castleton, Jennifer Hayner, and Jolene Wazalewski for taking the time on a very busy back to school week to sit down and talk to me, and to District Superintendent Deidre Raymer. This has been the SMY Podcast. We will see you next time.